Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, welcome back.
You know why you're here, right?
Yeah.
You want the good stuff. The main points.
The insets.
Without wading through pages and pages of research.
Absolutely, right to the point.
So today we're taking a close look at a study that was recently published in the Educational Psychology Review, and it's all about how young children learn to read.
How they crack the code, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we've done the heavy lifting, we've gone through this study, and we're going to bring you the really important stuff, the things that you would highlight if you're reading it yourself.
Takeaways, yeah.
And just so we're all at the same page, our main source today is this research paper.
That's right.
So imagine this, Chastity. Researchers in Denmark worked with a group of 5- and 6-year-olds who had just started school.
Grade 0, yeah.
Exactly. And for 8 weeks, they looked at how using body movements while learning, it's often called embodied learning, affects their very first steps in reading.
Their pre-reading skills.
Right. And their ability to actually decode words.
To read.
Yeah, to read.
So they compared 3 groups to see what worked best.
Okay.
One group learned using whole body movements.
Yeah.
Another used only hand movements.
Okay.
And the third was a control group that didn't do any specific movements beyond just the normal things you do when you're handwriting.
Right. So like your typical classroom activities.
Exactly.
And what I found really interesting was that they directly compared these different types of movement with standard teaching methods.
Head to head.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the fact that they did this research in Danish, which is a language where the letter sounds aren't always straightforward, it makes it even more challenging.
It does, yeah. Danish is a tough one to learn.
So if a learning method works there, it's probably pretty effective.
You would think so, yeah.
Now, to understand these results, we need to take a step back and look at where these young learners started.
Right, the baseline.
So the 149 children in the study had just started grade 0, as we said. And most of them could recognize at least half the alphabet, which is pretty typical for that age in Denmark. But very few could actually read words.
Right.
And when it came to letter sounds, they were a little bit below the national average.
You were a bit behind.
Yeah, but here's a really important point.
Okay.
The researchers made sure that all 3 groups, the whole body movement, the hand movement, and the control group, they all started at the same level.
Right.
Not just in terms of their reading skills, but also their age, their background, those sorts of things.
Demographics.
So that makes any differences that we see after the 8 weeks much more meaningful.
Yeah, it controls for those other variables.
Exactly. So let's dive into what happened after those 8 weeks.
Okay.
The researchers tested the children's letter sound knowledge right after the intervention.
At what they call T2.
Yep. And then they tested them again several months later, between 17 and 22 weeks,
That's T3, the retention test.
to see if what they had learned had stuck.
Long-term learning.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so are you ready for this? The children who learned using whole body movements, they were so much better at naming letter sounds correctly compared to the control groups.
Significantly better.
Like way better. And this wasn't just immediately after the intervention. It was true with the follow-up as well.
The effect lasted.
Yeah, we're talking a 167% improvement in the whole body group versus 82% in the control group right after the intervention.
Wow.
And then at the later test, it was 183% compared to 120%.
Still a big difference.
That's huge.
It is impressive.
And it gets even more interesting when you look at specific types of letter sounds.
Okay.
Like the study looked at how well the kids could name conditional letter sounds.
Those are tricky ones.
Yeah, like the letter C. They can sound like K in cat or Ms in city.
Right, different pronunciations for the same letter.
And both the hand movement and the whole body movement groups were much better at this compared to the control group right after the intervention.
They were.
The numbers are incredible. A 10 and 50% improvement for whole body, 700% for hand movements, compared to just 500% for the control group.
Tenfold increase.
Yeah, for the whole body group on those tricky sounds.
Amazing.
And that advantage, it didn't completely disappear over time either.
No, it didn't.
The hand movement group, they still did better than the control group in naming those conditional sounds, even at that later test.
Even months later.
And you know what else I thought was really cool?
What's that?
The researchers, they actually observed the children during these tests.
Interesting.
And they noticed that over half of the kids in both of those movement groups, they were actually using the movements they had learned when they were trying to remember the letter sound.
Like they were physically acting it out.
Yeah. It's like the movement became a trigger to help them remember.
A physical cue.
But none of the children in the control group did that at all.
No.
And here's something that surprised me. There wasn't any connection between how coordinated the kids were before the study and whether they tended to use these movements during the tests.
So it wasn't just the kids who are naturally good at moving.
Exactly. It suggests that the intervention itself, the act of pairing the movement with the sound, that's what helped them connect those two things.
Right, the learning process itself made a difference.
Okay, so the study also had the children do a task where they had to match a spoken letter sound to the correct written letter.
Okay, a matching task.
And for the standard letter sounds, the ones that are more common, all of the groups improved at about the same rate.
So for the easier sounds, everybody benefited.
But what about those trickier conditional sounds in this matching task?
Right, so when it came to matching those conditional sounds to their written form at the retention test, the whole body movement group did much better than the control group.
Really?
They were much better at connecting those different pronunciations to the right letter.
So it seems like incorporating movement, especially movements that use your whole body, it can really help young children learn and remember those connections between letters and sounds.
Especially the tough ones.
Especially the ones that have more than one possible sound.
Exactly.
Okay. But learning letter sounds, that's just one part of the puzzle, right?
It is. It's the foundation.
The ultimate goal is reading words.
Right. Being able to read actual text.
So the study also looked at what they called transfer effects,
Okay.
which basically means, did that improvement in letter sound knowledge automatically make the kids better at reading words?
Did it transfer to reading?
Yeah. They looked at words that were taught during the intervention, new words that were similar, and they even used standardized word reading tests.
So they looked at it from different angles.
They really wanted to know, did knowing those letter sounds, especially with the movements, actually help them read words?
Makes sense.
So what did they find out?
Well, this is where it gets a little bit surprising. The study didn't find any big effects of either the whole body or hand movement interventions on word reading skills. This was true for the words they practiced, the new similar words, and on those standardized tests.
That's unexpected.
It is a bit of a surprise.
Why do you think that might be?
Well, the researchers, they have a few ideas.
Okay.
One possibility is that the children just needed more time to develop those basic strategies for actually reading words.
Okay.
Knowing individual sounds is one thing, but blending them together to decode a whole word, that's a different skill and it takes practice.
Right, like you can know all the letters, but putting them together into words, that's a whole other challenge.
Exactly. And the intervention, it was great for letter sounds, but it might not have had enough focus on actually practicing word reading.
Makes sense.
And the study mentioned that only a very small percentage of the children, just 4%, were able to read words by the end of those 8 weeks.
Wow, that's really low.
It is.
So maybe they needed more time.
It's possible.
Or maybe they needed more explicit instruction on how to actually blend those sounds into words.
More practice and more guidance.
Yeah. And the researchers also compared their findings to another study.
Okay.
And that study did find some positive effects on reading skills. But that intervention was longer, 12 weeks instead of 8.
Okay.
And they had more time for instruction each week.
So maybe the amount of exposure to the learning is important.
Yeah, the dosage.
Right. The more you do it, the better the results.
Okay, so it's possible that if they had continued that movement-based learning for a longer time, or if they had focused more on how to actually blend those sounds together, the results might have been different.
That's a definite possibility.
And the researchers also thought that they might have seen some transfer effects in spelling,
Interesting.
even though spelling wasn't directly tested in this study.
It makes sense, though, right? If you understand letter sounds better, you should be able to spell better.
Yeah, it seems logical.
Right.
But this study didn't look at spelling specifically.
No, they focused on reading.
Now let's talk about the connection between a child's general motor skills and their reading skills.
Okay.
Some earlier research has suggested that there might be a link.
Between coordination and reading.
Yeah, but this particular study didn't find any strong correlation between the children's motor skills and their reading skills.
So their overall coordination wasn't a big factor.
And they measure those motor skills at the beginning of the study.
Right at baseline.
So it seems like while using movement during learning can help kids learn letter sounds, their general coordination level before they even start learning might not be a big deal.
Interesting. So being good at sports doesn't necessarily mean you'll be good at reading.
At least according to this study.
Right.
But it does seem like actively using your body while you're learning can make a difference.
It does.
So what are the main takeaways about using movement in the classroom?
Well, one important thing is that both of the movement groups did better than the control group when it came to letter sound knowledge.
Okay.
And the control group, they mostly focused on handwriting. So this suggests that using your body and really connecting that physical experience with the learning process is a good addition to traditional methods like handwriting.
Especially when you're first learning letter sounds.
Exactly, it's a supplement.
And what about the difference between using your whole body versus just your hands?
Right, so both types of movement helped, but whole body movements seem to have a longer lasting effect.
Why do you think that is?
It could be that engaging more of your body leads to a stronger memory.
It's like you're really embedding it in your mind.
Yeah, maybe it involves more of your brain, more neural pathways, maybe even connecting to spatial awareness or muscle memory in a way that just using your hands doesn't.
So the more active you are, the better you remember.
It seems that way.
So the researchers suggest that teachers should think about using movement-based teaching in their classrooms,
Especially whole body movement.
especially when they're teaching letter sounds.
Right.
Okay, so let's sum up the key takeaway for our listeners.
Okay.
What's the big message here?
The main finding is that embodied learning, especially using whole body movements, can really help young children learn and remember their letter sounds.
Okay.
This is particularly true for those more complex sounds, the ones that can be tricky for kids.
Right.
And this approach seems to help them remember the information for longer.
But there's another important point that we need to remember.
What's that?
Just knowing letter sounds doesn't automatically mean that kids will be able to read words.
Right. It's not a magic bullet.
It seems like learning to read words takes more time, more practice
And more specific instruction.
on how to blend those sounds together.
Exactly.
And remember, very few children in the study actually became readers in those 8 weeks.
This is a short intervention.
So it's complicated.
It is.
Learning to read is a complex process.
It takes time and effort.
So here's a final thought for you to consider.
Okay.
If using your body can help you learn and remember things like letter sounds, what about other areas of learning? Could we use these same ideas to learn other things?
Maybe even things beyond just basic reading skills.
What do you think?
It's an interesting question for sure.
It makes you think about how we learn
It does.
and how we can use our bodies to help us learn better.
Absolutely.
So just remember, this whole discussion is based on one specific study,
Yeah.
and it was published in the Educational Psychology Review.
A reputable journal.
So if you're interested in learning more,
Uh-huh.
you can check out the original research.
Dig deeper.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
It went by fast.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We appreciate you listening.
We hope you found it helpful.
We hope it gave you some things to think about.
Until next time, keep learning
And keep exploring.
and keep those brains engaged.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.